Star quarterback Justin Herbert is now officially out for the season, and this marks the end of an era for the current group of Charger stars.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 8 seasons, but this is our 6th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen, and to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, it's a big one. What do we got today?
Unfortunately, we got the solemn news that this is indeed going to be the end of Justin Herbert's season for the Chargers. And we're going to talk about the fallout that's going to become from that, and how this is going to be the end of an era for some of the Chargers' bigger stars. And it's time to find out who's going to be the next foundational building blocks for the Chargers on each side of the ball going forward.
Yeah, the thing about the end of an era, it also starts a new era, and I think that's something to get excited about, and that's why I think the Chargers need to clean house and get us there. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. David, we got the news on Wednesday or Tuesday. Sorry, you guys will hear this on Wednesday, but we got the news that Herbert is officially done, right? And it was kind of good news from the sense that neither one of us wanted to see him back out there, right? The last thing I wanted to see is this team at 3 games under 500, right, going and putting their $262 million quarterback back on the field. Of course, it would be nice if he wasn't, medically unable to do it, but he is getting surgery according to the team. They reported that on Tuesday, saying that he is going to get surgery on that right index finger and that he will be back next season, right? But it's done for this season. He was put on IR. Josh Palmer was reinstated back onto the roster. But for this team, David, and for Justin Herbert, this would be the first 4 games he's ever missed due to injury, which is crazy considering how much he's gotten beaten up. And then it also means that it changes the trajectory of their season to where now they will likely lose the next 4 games. But we'll talk about if we think Easton Stick's going to pull off Thursday Night Football later on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from a straight business perspective, it's the best thing for Justin Herbert to be out for the rest of the season. But at a human level, on a personal level, your heart hurts for the guy. I mean, it sucks to be able to have to sit there and have to watch the rest of your teammates go out there and go to battle without you, and have to try to figure it out and be injured for the first time in your professional career.
Yeah.
Officially to where you're missing games. And so, yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. Justin Herbert's out. He did have that surgery, according, to Ian Rappaport. It was successful. So he is on the road to recovery, according to Brandon Staley as well. So hopefully that goes well. Hopefully there's no ill effects long-term, because that's the most important aspect of this. Make sure that Justin Herbert is healthy for the future.
And now we know, Easton Stick will be the guy starting the game for the Chargers the last 4 games of the season. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, how he plays, kind of, I think, vying for the long-term backup job for this team, maybe vying for, a starting potential spot on another team if he goes out there and balls out. But the problem is he's going to be dealing with the same flawed roster that Justin Herbert kind of dragged to the playoffs last year, and the one that struggled this year. But now that Justin Herbert is out, the Chargers are out of the playoffs, what does that mean for the rest of their stars? You know what I mean? Because the Chargers did put their chips in the middle of the table this year and decided to restructure and max restructure a lot of their big contracts so they could keep the core together of Justin Herbert with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, giving the defense Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and Derwin James, right? All of those big contracts were meant to be able to kind of carry this team to success year after year, and unfortunately, that didn't get done. But we talked about it at the beginning of the year with you, is they can't keep it going next year. Next year, the chickens come home to roost. They have to be able to shed some of these guys' salaries just to get under their salary cap, and they're $42 million over it right now. So that's kind of another sad part of this, is just the Chargers couldn't do anything meaningful with those star players for one reason or another.
Yeah, it's sad because, I mean, this was the vision, or this was not the vision that they had in mind, when they brought all these guys back. They wanted to see what this could look like with all of their stars available and ready to go. And in the beginning of the year, I mean, I thought you saw some spurts where there was some magic. I mean, against the Minnesota Vikings, that game where they blitzed like crazy, Justin Herbert was insane in that football game, and he had his full complement of weapons for the most part. And so, that was like, the peak of what this Chargers offense could look like. And on defense, I think that was more few and far between, a little bit less consistent. But you saw when Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack were rushing together, they did have quite a bit of success. It just, again, was such a small sample size that you were not able to kind of get the full experience for the full season. And I mean, obviously those injuries to both, Joey Bosa and Mike Williams have a part to play in this, but only a small part. There's still a lot more important issues that caused this season to unfold the way it has.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just this season, right? It's these guys were together for at least the last 3 seasons, right? Besides Khalil Mack, obviously. But, having Mike Williams and Joey Bosa, by the end of this season, they'll have missed 38 games the last 2 years. That's obviously a big part of it for sure. But, it's also the rest of the, organization's job to be able to build, those backup plans and be able to have a team that doesn't need all of their star players out there every week and get enough from the rest of those guys, and they just weren't able to do it. Now, it's like, okay, well, is that the last time we saw Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert together? These are the questions that are going to come up because it's probably going to be a new general manager and a new head coach. And we're going to talk about how all of those, roles, president of football operations, we'll talk about that too. The blame is throughout the entire organization, but we don't know for sure Keenan Allen's going to be back next year, right? You'd have to hope that they have the respect for him, and also just seeing what he's able to do this year, it's hard to imagine the offense is any better without him next year. But he has a big cap hit, right? I think the most likely is that this is the last time you see Mike Williams and probably Joey Bosa, because Khalil Mack has 15 sacks this year, right? And has been healthy for every single game this year. So it feels like that's kind of has to be the way it goes. But can the Chargers even get Khalil Mack to stick around? Because I don't know if you guys have been listening to the comments he's been saying, but Khalil Mack's not happy with the direction this franchise is going. Khalil Mack doesn't like losing games. And we're talking about a guy that Daniel Popper just recently said considered retirement after the 2022 season. And that's when they were in the playoffs, right? So does he want to come back around for another season next year with the team going in the direction that it's currently going?
Yeah, I mean, Khalil Mack made no bones about it. His ambitions were very clear, and that was that he wanted to win a championship. I mean, that was, what kind of provided the motivation to come back this year to play, was that he wanted to come back and win a championship. And it's clear now, obviously, that that's not going to happen. And who knows when the Chargers are going to be in a position to make that happen. There's going to be a ton of turnover, and who knows what the future is going to look like at this point in time. And unfortunately for Khalil Mack, his time is running out as far as his viability in the league. So for him, who has made it clear that he wants to win a championship, Daniel, does he force a trade? Does he say, hey, I want to go play with a winner. I want to go try and win a championship because my shelf life is about to run out. And it's clear to me at this point in time that the organization is not in a spot to where they can contend for a world championship. So that's the other aspect. Obviously, the Chargers want to keep Khalil Mack. It's been very clear to anyone who has a pair of good eyes that he's been one of the best defensive players in the NFL this year, regardless of position. So to have that guy back, to get that guy back would be fantastic. But is he going to want to come back? That's another question entirely.
Yeah, and he said one of the main reasons he didn't, or at least considered retirement was because he wasn't playing well, right? Daniel Popper in the article talked about 2 sacks in his last 11 games last year. If there's one thing that you hope can kind of keep him going, it's the fact that he's still dominating. He said that's what he's in it for. He's in it to dominate the person in front of him. He called it therapeutic because he's a psycho, right? That's what he's in this for, is to dominate other people. So now it's the front office and the organization that has to be able to prove to him that they can stay competitive in 2024, because also his coach is leaving, right? The coach that orchestrated the trade for him is also likely gone next season with Brandon Staley. 99% sure, I would put it at this point, right? So how motivated is he to go do it again with a team that has kind of a questionable direction right now? And there's a lot of people to blame, including the president of football operations, including this coaching staff, and Tom Telesco as well. And we're going to talk about that and starting a new era coming up right after this. First, though, I do need to tell you guys, as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. I wouldn't necessarily recommend making it on the Chargers, but that's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options like spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. And there's also great promotions. The Chargers are currently 3-point underdogs on Thursday Night Football against the Raiders. But on Thursday night, all FanDuel customers can get a 25% profit boost token to use on a live wager placed on the Chargers-Raider game, so you can maximize your winning and even get 25% more than what you bet. The terms apply to that, but there's always great promotions going on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. David, we've talked before about how did we get here, right? Like that's the big thing, because the Chargers are always the team that underachieves every season, but why? I think it has a lot to do with a lot of different factors, like obviously bad contracts given out, right? Bad draft picks, all of those things, players not progressing enough, players not developing enough, all of that is wrapped into it, right? And also you have star players that, underachieved or just weren't able to stay out on the field. So I think when you're looking at, how did we get here? Like, how did we get to a point where Justin Herbert is getting banged up every single year? He's getting absolutely battered. Now you're missing the playoffs for the third time in Justin Herbert's 4 seasons, even though he's been a top 10 quarterback every season. How did you get here, right? And to me, it goes all the way up. Like, ownership, front office, coaching staff, all of those things are to blame for it. And I think when you're looking at it, like it's a layered issue, because the last thing that you want is for Justin Herbert to have the career, right, of Andrew Luck, where he just has had enough, where he's continually battered year after year. The team, has empty promises. They can't build the winning team around him to get to a Super Bowl. And Justin Herbert's going through that same thing right here. But the coaching staff and the front office are to blame for how we get here right now.
Yeah, they missed a golden opportunity. It's very obvious. I mean, you had a star quarterback on a rookie contract where you had the freedom to be able to build around him as you wanted to, with the amount of money that really could, set it up however you wanted to be able to present it. And that vision never came to fruition. You were never able to put enough quality offensive linemen or weapons around him, or establish a quality running game, or get him any semblance of a consistent defense at any point in time during his tenure as the Chargers quarterback. And so that is a direct reflection of the leadership all the way at the top. When they knew they had a star on their hands, when they knew they were going to commit to Justin Herbert long-term, they should have also committed to making sure that they put him in the best position to be able to go out there and do his job the best way at the highest level. And that requires quality protection. That requires a running game. That requires a defense that can go out there and get stops. They have failed across the board.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw Patrick Mahomes just get a little bit of a taste of things not going right, and look at how he reacted, right? Like, that's been Justin purgatory for 4 seasons now, right? And that's the nice thing of having a quarterback that's always going to stay kind of even keeled, right? And not show those emotions and throw other people under the bus. But I think the point of this is just like, I know everyone wants Staley gone. Like, that's a sentiment you could probably see shared about, 80 to 90% of Chargers fans are ready for that. Maybe even more than that, right?
I'd say more than that.
This is a deep-rooted infection. This is not, like something like, that's the thing. Justin Herbert, like, that's the part you feel so bad about. Like, the dude had a bone go through his finger and he's back out there. Like, if the Chargers could get that as an organization, if the Chargers were as tough as an organization as Justin Herbert is as a football player, they'd be in a good spot. But they're not. Yeah. And it's because of the deep-seated problems that come with this team and how far it goes. It's not just Brandon Staley. I know everyone wants to see Brandon Staley go. It goes so much further than that. Like, Brandon Staley is not absolved in this, right? His defense was bad more than it was good. It can't be like that if you're the defensive mastermind, especially after you go and get the players that you want, right?
Exactly.
But the guy who signed all those players was Tom Telesco. Right, he got those players for you, but the whole problem is the Chargers roster isn't as talented as many people think it is. Tom Telesco couldn't build a roster that could compete in the AFC that is wide open this year. Tom Telesco couldn't put together a roster that could see consistent success with 2-star quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert, right? And it goes even higher than that. Like I said, like John Spanos, Dean Spanos' son, is the president of football operations for this team. We're talking about cleaning house. It's hard to imagine he's part of that, David, right? But like at the same time, you have to take some culpability. You've been the president of football operations since 2015, and all that's done has gotten you to the playoffs twice, 0 division championships, and then 1-2 playoff record. Like, it's not good enough. Everyone has to be held accountable here.
Accountability means even the guys that have the same last name as the owner. Okay, you're not absolved from taking responsibility for your part in building this football team. If you are the head of football operations, then your sole job is to make sure that football operations is running at its peak effectiveness and efficiency. That has not happened at all. The Chargers have not been a good football team since the early 2000s. That's the last time where they were perennially beating everybody up and imposing their will. And you had a brand of football where charging didn't exist. This charging thing didn't really happen until the end of the 2000s, going into the 2010s. And like that's where
I mean, I think Marlon McCree would probably disagree with you there. I mean, those teams had their charging moments, right? The playoff game against the Patriots, the Nate Kading missed field goals. Like, that's what charging was then. This is what it is now. But the difference is back then they were a perennial playoff team. You know, they were in the playoffs every year. They were winning the division every year. And right now you would take that in a heartbeat, right?
Absolutely.
And now, you know, like, and the thing is like, if John Spanos has to stay, like, I get it, right? If you're judging him based on the football operation and how this team has performed, he should be gone. Like, that just is what it is. It's not, but it's unlikely to happen. So what has to happen is spare no expense to put the smartest people in football around him. If you want him in that position, surround him with the smartest people in football and spare no expense at doing it. And I think that's what takes us to the next point. Is just, you have to make sure you get it right now. Like, this next hire has to be it. This next GM has to be the guy. This next head coach has to be the guy, because you can't afford to waste another 3 or 4 years in another cycle of head coaches and general managers for Justin Herbert and get it wrong again. You don't want Andrew Luck. Phillip Rivers did it his whole career, right? Now Justin Herbert's had to do it through his first 4 seasons, and now you're going to give him his 4th offensive coordinator in 5 years, his 4th offense to learn in 5 years, right? You can't keep doing this, because you have to find stability. And when I think of that, I think money can not be the thing that holds you back. Go pay whoever you think is the best offensive line coach in the NFL, pay him double what he's getting right now and make him the run game coordinator. Do whatever you want, whatever title you have to give him, spare no expense. When big names become available, like Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick, who reportedly is going to be gone at the end of the season, you might not like them for whatever reasons. Money can't be one of them. We've seen the Chargers take a step in the right direction with the facilities, then having nice facilities that they can offer to a new head coach and general manager in 2024. That's a step in the right direction. We heard they were interested in Urban Meyer and paying top dollar to make him the head coach, right? That would have been a disaster, but at least supposedly they're willing to spend the money. A lot of reasons can, go into who they pick next, David, but the thing that can, that can't stop them is the money part of it.
You know what's not a part of the salary cap, Daniel? Signing a head coach.
Right.
That has no bearing on your salary cap. That has everything to do with you opening up your checkbook as an owner and paying the money it requires to bring in someone who has a proven track record of winning football games in the NFL. No more first-time head coaches. That experiment has not worked ×3. You've had plenty of subject matter to be able to get that data and analyze that to the fact that it just has not worked out for the Chargers. No more excuses. No more, I'm going to just give $3-4 million to a new up-and-coming coach. No. Now it's time to go open it up, go back up the Brinks truck, get real football people in the building running your football team at the head coach level, at the general manager level, and surround all of your family members with people that have been in the game, that have had success in the game. That is how you win.
And that's how you change the narrative, right? Like, if you're starting a new era with this football team, a new era with fresh faces around your star quarterback, Justin Herbert, That's how you do it. You change the narrative, and they have, when they sign these big contracts, it is a salary cap thing. You still have to put a lot of money up front. Like that is part of it, All these guys are getting most of their contract within the first 2 years. The Chargers have done much better in that regard, paying the people they need to pay and having the cash flow to do that, right? The Spanoses are not a rich family in the NFL, but it has to be right now. If you want the money to start coming back to you through your NFL team, you have to open up the checkbook and find the right people to lead Justin Herbert and maximize Justin Herbert, which we haven't seen through 4 seasons. And they're also going to be tasked with finding Justin Herbert an offensive line that can block for him, or a coach that can get this offensive line to block well enough for him, right? You're also going to have to find someone that is going to surround him with the talent that is going to help this offense reach new levels. Because if you give this dude talent, and right now, your talent's aging. Mike Williams is going to be gone more than likely. Austin Eckler's gone. Keenan Allen's going to be 32. You need a whole new era of talent around this dude. Whoever you pick, they have to get that right, because you're playing with Justin Herbert's career right now. Do you want to be known as the franchise that wasted Justin Herbert and Philip Rivers' career? I promise you don't. How much are you willing to spend to make sure it doesn't happen? That's what it comes down to. But for the rest of this season, these games are still important, because what this is about now is finding the building blocks for this roster, finding the guys that are worth keeping around. So with this Thursday night football game coming up, there's some guys that could prove that, or at least start seeing from these guys, hey, okay, we feel good about that going forward. So we're going to get into that coming up right after this. First, though, I do need to tell you guys about PrizePicks, which is daily fantasy made easy. With PrizePicks, you select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. The more entries you hit on, the more you win. If you can hit on 6 of them on the same entry, you can win up to 25 times your money. But that's just part of the fun at PrizePicks. One of my favorite things are the promotions they have going on, like Taco Tuesday. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that you can lead into big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. And I know you guys are wondering, how do I get in on PrizePicks on Thursday Night Football? And you can. If you want to get in on the action on Thursday night, all you have to do is make an entry. You could use Easton Stick passing for more than or less than 201.5 passing yards, and pair that with Austin Eckler going for more or less than 26.5 receiving yards. It's that simple. Yeah, okay. We see where David's going with it. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL, promo code LockedOnNFL for that deposit match, matching your money up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, David. Well, the Chargers still have 4 games left, and I know there's a lot of people that are just going to say, "What's the point?" And I totally understand it. But these last 4 games are really important, especially for specific players, especially for young players. And I think going into this, since we're not really going to have keys for success this week because it's a Thursday night football game, we will have crossover Thursday. Your boy Q, Locked on Chargers, Locked on Raiders tomorrow. But the game on Thursday night is about, hey, how does this offense look with Easton Stick? And can he give us a good reading at how some of these young offensive players are developing at this point in the season? And worth counting into, hey, this guy should be around. This guy's going to be a player for you moving forward. But I do want to tell you guys that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7. There's also a Los Angeles Sports on YouTube that goes 24/7 every single day too. So make sure you guys go to Locked On Sports Today and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So David, Easton Stick time. Big Easton Stick game coming up. And to me, the biggest thing is just, what is Easton Stick going to look like in this offense? Like I said, I think he is kind of vying for that long-term backup role behind Justin Herbert, which, if he's cheap, that's fine. Everyone wants a good backup. We're going to see if they have a good backup right now. What are you expecting to see from Easton Stick in this offense?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is I think, I'm a little bit excited to see how Kellen Moore is able to change the offense around Easton Stick, because he has had a track record of being able to set up a backup quarterback for some success with Cooper Rush in Dallas. So I think what we're going to see a little bit more in this football game with Easton Stick is, the things that he does well. He is very much a mobile quarterback. I do expect to see a lot more designed runs in the game plan, because that's what he did a ton of at North Dakota State, and he won a lot of football games there. Obviously, that's a different level of football. We all know that. But, that is definitely going to be a big part of it. He is very elusive. He does have some speed. He does have some, some running ability. So I expect that. Also, a lot of easy, quick throws, probably more of those wide receiver screens that, I want to see, hopefully, to Quentin Johnston, to get him some opportunities to get in rhythm, make some easy throws, and then maybe open it up. But they got to protect. They got to protect him. They got to keep Max Crosby out of his lap every single play so he can actually go out there and get comfortable and make some plays.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's less about, Kellen Moore just because he's probably not going to be around next season. It's more about, can Kellen Moore and Easton Stick show me what I want to see from the rest of the guys on this offense, right? And to me, it's about looking at potentially the duo of Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston and how those guys play if they're the top options. Keenan Allen has not practiced, or at least not estimated to practice on one of the days this week, so good chance he misses Thursday Night Football. I definitely wouldn't put him out there if you have a star wide receiver doing what he's doing in, 4 games that aren't going to lead you to the playoffs. So good chance we don't see him potentially. Quentin Johnston coming off of his best game ever. Josh Palmer activated from injured reserve this week as well. I'm excited to see what those two look like, David, because those are going to be 2 of Justin Herbert's top weapons in 2024. And so hopefully Easton Stick can at least conduct an offense to feature those guys, and also seeing more of guys like Darius Davis, right? Seeing more drives to see some more Isaiah Spiller. So that's what I'm hoping for this offense. But defensively, I think it's about building blocks. Yeah. How many building blocks can you find? Like if you're talking about defensive stalwarts that are going to be around and going to be the future of this defense, and you look at it right now, it's not a long list. I mean, it's Tuli Tuipulotu you feel great about going forward. And who else, right? So I think that's what this is about, right? Getting to see some Tito Ammonia, getting to see some Dayon Henley, and maybe, David, even a breakout of Tuli Tuipulotu down the stretch, because, hey, if he gets 5 sacks in the last 4 games, that's somebody you're feeling really, really good about as a foundational building block for this defense.
Yeah, at a premium position, too. Obviously, that edge rusher position, those guys get paid a ton of money. The Chargers know that very well, as they have 2 of the highest paid edge rushers in the NFL currently on their roster. But I absolutely agree with you. I mean, that's what this season is about. That's what this game is going to be about, is about starting that evaluation process to see who's going to be a part of this defense going forward. I definitely want to see some JT Woods out there. Yeah. He's coming back off of the NFI list, the NFL injury list, illness list.
Yeah, the non-football illness list.
Yeah.
We still don't know what that was. That was weird for sure.
Yeah, it's been real hush-hush. But, bottom line is I want to see what he looks like out there next to Derwin James. I mean, I want to see him, take the football away. I want to see that college, take the football ability away, manifest itself at the NFL level. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And I would love to see Dayon Henley get some run on defense. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I feel like this guy has real instincts, has real athleticism and ball skills. I feel like he can make an impact, and I want to see it. And right now, there's really no excuses not to get him some run and let him go out there and show what he is capable of.
Yeah, I think, Jasir Taylor's another guy. Obviously, he got benched, unless you think that Essang Bassi is going to be the guy going forward. Like, I doubt why not see what you have in Jasir Taylor, who's going to be around the next couple of seasons, right? Probably not going to get to see Dean Leonard, which is a shame because he's injured and hasn't practiced at all this week. But I thought he's had some encouraging moments, but
he has
none of those guys we've talked about to this point are guys you're like, okay, he's going to be a starter for this team in 2024, assuredly, right? Like there's very few of those guys that we know are going to be starters for this team in 2024, especially with some of the contracts that are going to get to the chop in the offseason. It's hard to say, but I do know one contract that has to start getting lived up to these last 4 games of the season, and that belongs to Derwin James. Like, if you want to keep this team involved, if you want to keep this team motivated, it starts with Derwin James, who has played like one of the best safeties in the league for most of his career and has been far from that. Like, I get being the vocal leader, and he has aced that. He seems to be the best dude. Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee,
great spokesperson,
right? Like, great face of the franchise player. But what comes along with that is being really good at your job on the football field too, and it just hasn't been enough. Like, the tackles that this dude is missing right now are straight up unacceptable, and I'm sure he would tell you that, right? Like, I'm sure he's sick of the standard that he's setting out there. But for him to be the lowest graded Pro Football Focus defender last week against the Broncos,
that can never happen.
Unacceptable. You don't have to be the best player every week, right? But you have to be the best player some weeks, and you have to be not the worst player every single week, right? Like, that's just, that's what it is. So if Derwin James could have a strong end to the season, man, going up against the Bills, going up against the Chiefs. He's going to have some opportunities to do it. That's what the rest of this season is about to me, right? Finding out what kind of building blocks you have for this team, finding out the players you have to build around in 2024 and beyond, and also getting someone like Derwin James back to at least much closer to the level we know he can play. Because, man, if he's going to play like this and he has that many years left on his contract, 3+ years,
it's bad news, Bears.
You're in trouble. You're in trouble, man. So they need him. Hey, be the leader off the field. Keep that up. You've done a great job. I love Derwin James.
So do I.
He's got to be better on the field. And it starts with these last 4 games, whether the playoffs are an option or not. He has to be better. And it would be really, really good
to be the superstar you are.
For this new era, seeing him playing at a high level. But make sure you guys are back here tomorrow for Crossover Thursday. David joining up with your boy Q, one of the best on the network, getting into Crossover Thursdays, one of the best days of the week, getting into the biggest storylines and matchups for this one and the paths to victory. David, let's give our last predictions here. I'll give my prediction. You can give your prediction tomorrow. I have the Chargers losing 12-10 in this one. Maybe it's wishful thinking. The Chargers are a 3-point underdog. Maybe they cover the spread there on FanDuel. I don't know. I think it's going to be a weird game. I mean, obviously, we've seen Aiden O'Connell put up more than a goose egg like he did last week against the Chargers already this season. I think the Chargers aren't going to be able to pull it off, but make sure you guys are back here tomorrow for Crossover Thursday to see if David thinks they can pull off the win on Thursday Night Football. And to make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find the show every day on our social media. You can find us on Twitter at Locked On LAC, on our Locked On Chargers Facebook page, and at Locked On Chargers on Instagram. Thank you guys so much, especially this time of the year. It means more sticking with us because we are your team every day. We're going to be here through the rest of this season, easy or not. And I think there's still a lot of things to be excited about and things to watch for this season as we start looking towards 2024. So make sure you're back here tomorrow for Crossover Thursday. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.